currently getting in trouble for touching the mic, Mace. So
I know.
Tommy Gunn's not too happy about it, but I promise I'll try not to touch the microphone today. Mace, another 2 teams on Mad Monday. Well, it's Wednesday now.
Just before, I've got a little bit of housekeeping.
Okay.
We've got an email from someone. It says, Dear Mr. Maitua and Mr. Macy, thank you for putting Braith on the map. Yours truly, Steve Crawley.
Yeah, it was his career should really explode after that episode.
I think that was probably the best ratings he's had on 360 since then.
Oh, for sure. Who watches 360?
Him and Buzz.
Him and Buzz, eh? Mate, how's your weekend?
It was good.
How's your week?
Mate, can I just...
Oh, the Roosters.
It was good.
Yeah. Tell us some news. Why you got the hat on again?
Well, you know, it's funny. I bought the hat, I think, when we lost that game. And you said, why you were in the hat and you got beat? And we've won each game since.
So sure?
Yes, because I bought the hat on the way to the Canberra game when we got beat.
Yeah.
But I've worn it on the show. We've won every week. So I think it's a good omen that I wear the hat.
Yeah.
And it hides me from the turkey too.
Do you sleep with it on?
Yes, if there's cameras or a mirror.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough, mate. Let's get into our freak of the week.
Freak of the week.
I'll start.
You start.
I have to go with Teddy, mate. Teddy was outstanding. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Ever since, not playing Origin as well, could be a real defining factor in prolonging his career.
Yeah.
Just a good leader. I mean, there was players around him that played really well. Obviously bringing Jared and Radley back, which we can speak about later. Just really freed him up. He played with a lot of confidence. Obviously, the game's on the line. Probably didn't give him enough credit for their second half against Penrith. And I really was worried about how far they can go in this competition. I tipped Manly, as you know. But
until Brace tipped you back in.
Yeah.
I
was torn, So, mate, Teddy, outstanding. What a player.
Yeah.
Who was yours?
Mine was out of the same game and you mentioned him, Jared.
Yeah.
And I'm giving Teddy and everyone else that performed so well, the extra 10% comes from Jared.
Can you ever pick someone that doesn't play for the Roosters?
Yeah, I did. I did it maybe once, I think. No, but I honestly, look at what he does for that side. And it's probably scary moving forward to next year what will happen, but they were a completely different side with him on the field. And Radley.
Just
getting
alpha males, and it gives everyone else confidence in the side, just having that presence, having that leader, someone like Jared and Radley have got their back. So what a game against Melbourne coming up. It's going to be unbelievable.
Before we go into looking at the games from the weekend, you touched on Teddy. I think a lot of people said, and we'll get to Kalyn later, that Kalyn kind of stamped his authority and put his hand up for the number 1 jersey for Australia. There's people saying it should be Dylan Edwards. Has Teddy put his hand up now for that number 1 jersey?
It's such a difficult situation because it's completely different selectors for the Australian team, right? And he's the incumbent.
Yeah.
He's the captain. The only thing going against Teddy is last year's series. Losing against the Kiwis 30-0. That could go against him. It could be a changing of the guard where the Australian selectors want to go and Mal might want to go. I'd have to keep Edwards at number 1, Teddy just below.
Yeah.
I know Edwards might have some sort of knee injury, but Kalyn would probably be 3rd on the list, if anything. But Teddy,
I would have had Kalyn at 1 personally. But
Kalyn at 1.
Yeah. What he's done since coming back is just incredible.
It's 2 games. What about what Dylan's done for 45 years?
Yeah.
And what Teddy's done for even longer.
I know, but like you said, they're changing the guard. I think I'm looking...
You're thinking about X Factor, like someone that's...
And just what he's been able to do in a team that is a limited team.
Yeah.
Respectfully. But compared to... imagine Kalyn in a Roosters jersey or a Melbourne jersey or a Penrith jersey.
Well, we spoke about it with Braith last week. You know, he could go down as, was it last week or the week before, as the Charles Barkley of the NRL, never win a premiership.
Yeah.
You know, but be up there with one of the best players to ever play our game.
Yeah.
Before we go down that path, let's talk about Sharks. Great win.
Yeah.
Great win against the Cowboys. Started the game well, 24-0 at halftime. Trindle outstanding. Nicho did his job.
What do you think? What do you think on the performance? He did his job.
Did his job.
Yeah.
You kind of expect him, like everyone wants the $1 million performance. He's not quite there yet.
Yeah.
Doubled down, didn't he, during the week about not being defined by his footballing career?
We'll come back to that. I want to continue on the performance overall because, like, look at Trindle. How good did Trindle? Like, Trindle has just stamped himself in that jersey the last probably 3 weeks, and he just seems to be going to another level. Like, if you had to drop one player, who do you drop?
Nicho.
And it's without a question mark.
Yeah. I mean, especially what Trindle went through earlier this year.
Yeah.
To turn his life, essentially his career, you know. Sharks could have easily sacked him then and there. So he's repaying Fitzy, he's repaying his teammates, he's repaying the club. 10 out of 10 performance. I mean, his kicking game was great, support play, setting up tries. He really needed to step up in and probably support Nicho, right? So I don't want to bag Nicho. He's definitely having one of those seasons where he's really down in confidence. There's been a lot of sort of noise around the media and around the game in general about his performance. He still isn't quite there yet. He's not quite there.
Could you move him? And you don't do it now, but in the future, could you think about maybe moving Nicho back to 1 where he's played in the past? And then you've got Atkinson in 7 and you've got Trindle in 6.
It's definitely a conversation for their coaching staff next year. But then what do you do with Will Kennedy?
Yeah, it makes it tough.
But yeah, look, great performance. To see the reaction from the players, I feel like they're in this kind of siege mentality. You know, I can't remember the song they sang, but it was like pretty much we're in this together, backs against the wall. The back end of the game, letting Cowboys in for a couple of tries would have possibly been a bit of a concern, but to get out to that lead, 24-0.
They were very clinical early.
And they left some points on the field as well. A couple of disallowed tries, Sharks.
They did. In saying that, a few of the Cowboys players did not have their best night. I know Clifford didn't have his best night.
I thought they would have come down and give it a good shake, but I tipped the Sharks. I just thought Cowboys have been far too inconsistent. I know Sharks have been up and down here and there, but Cowboys, they don't like the grind, and they were conceding far too many metres through the middle again.
Yeah.
You know, that's something they've got to look at in the off-season is what's happening. You've got Cotter, you've got Robson, you've got McLean, you've got Taumalolo, you've got Nanai, you've got Lukey.
Yeah. Like that's a very good full
Very good pack. There's no reason why that pack should be conceding a lot of metres through the middle, right?
Yeah.
So it's a concern. I don't know who their wrestle coach is, but I can guarantee you that the wrestle sessions up in North Queensland are going to be extremely tough.
Yeah.
Extremely tough because there's too much talent in that side to be so inconsistent, and especially around their defence.
Yeah. Do you think it's a pass mark? I know we can go over this more in the offseason. Do you think it's a pass mark for the Cowboys this year?
I think it's a pass because they were so inconsistent.
Yeah.
You know, and you just didn't know what you were going to get from them. They had the 3 buys, which they had up their sleeve later in the season.
Yeah.
It's a pass, but the way they went out, when you've got so many Origin players in a team, right, you just think...
You're expected to do better. Like, they're going to have to fill a few gaps. They're losing Val Holmes next year.
Is Felt going over to Super League?
I believe so, yeah.
He's been such a handy player for so long. I remember when Felt first came onto the scene and he threw Greg Inglis over a sideline.
Yeah.
Like Greg Inglis. And I thought, who is this kid? Complete Mongstrek. So,
Who's some of the great players that had complete Mong strength that you played with?
Oh, that I played with.
Or played against? Who's someone you went, fuck, are you doing video or you're like this week? Oh, complete Mong strength. I was always a redhead. When I grew up playing footy, I always found redheads had complete Mong strength.
I wouldn't say there was just. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there was plenty of players. Like there was a guy, Paul Franze, that played in the centres. He was just like really strong. Oh, Ben Pomeroy.
There you go. See, I knew there'd be one.
Sorry, Pom. Complete Mong strength. Like athletically, like he was built athletically.
Yeah.
Not the best skill when it came to footy. Handy football player, but just Mong strength.
Mong strength. Oh, there's one thing I certainly didn't have was Mong strength. I was a Mong with no strength.
Mate, Roosters, wow, against Manly. The game started pretty intense. Obviously, they lost Kohler.
Yeah.
And then Jakey Turbo went off.
Jared did his job in the first 7 minutes.
Yeah.
Just like being a granite wall.
Just poor technique, I guess. A smaller centre trying to come in and put a shot on Jared. It started chaotic. Olakawatu.
Like
animal.
But like, fuck, can I say, being at that game live, so you look at the size of Jared, you look at Terrell May, like these are big boys. And they look small compared to
Paseka Lodge.
Paseka and Olakawatu are two of the biggest humans I reckon I've ever seen.
Man, that shot.
And they can move. You watch them move on a footy field, like their stride, they make great racehorses.
What about that shot Hamoli put on Lindsay Collins? He put a few big shots on.
That shot on Lindsay, and I made massive credit to Lindsay. Lindsay got up laughing.
Yeah.
But like you could tell he was like, fuck, got rattled.
Do you think Lindsay needs to like shave his head? It looks unusual for a front rower to have kind of like a short back and sides, you know? Just shave it, man. You're in the front row. You got to look like a front rower.
Yeah, I can see.
Because he's copped a few shots in the last.
He's missing a Barry Beef as well at the moment.
Well, that's a front rower.
That's a front rower.
Front rowers aren't meant to have hair though.
No.
Good hair.
Yeah, he's got good hair.
Yeah, he's got good hair.
Not in the turkey team.
Just shave it. But
see what happens though. You look at the back rower. AC's shaved his hair, and then there's been speculation of the turkey team. Maybe that's why.
There's no speculation.
There's no speculation.
Well, we gave him another season, didn't we?
We gave him the season.
But just in terms of Roosters' performance, they just moved the ball well. Their second phase, their offloads, the confidence, the zero hesitation. Just like our man Braithen Astor was talking about last week.
Yeah.
They look like a really, really confident team. Scary team when going down to Melbourne. Like if you're the Storm and the Roosters after that performance, if they turn up like that, I cannot.
It was just chalk and cheese compared to the team that showed up against Penrith. And like Penrith, it was that, and I think like Braith touched on it perfectly in the preview when we did it last week. He said they've got the double thing to play for. Jared's last game, Manu, like Kiri, all that sort of stuff at the stadium. Last game at the stadium for them, so they were completely up. It was almost like a bit of a grand final for them. Obviously Sandon copped a bit of a bad rap in the Penrith game, making mistakes. It's a lot easier playing as a half. I don't care what level you play at, whether it's park footy or to the top grade. Your forwards are going forward.
Yeah.
You've got time with the ball and you don't hesitate.
Yeah.
And getting it right is a lot easier than when you're under pressure. Fuck, we've gone 25 metres in a set of 6 and what are we going to do?
Yeah, when a halfback can play at the ad line, it makes their job a lot easier.
And Sanders got toe. He showed that he's got some skill. He's got some pace.
Yeah.
I actually wanted to see him with the ball more.
Yeah.
And because then what it did, it let Kiri free up his game, and Kiri got to play that real good ad-lib sort of footy. Like the no-look pass to Teddy was just unreal. Incredible. That was like right in front of us. And like just watching that, and it looks like a training drill. They just go pop, pop, pop.
Just the amount of strike they've got across that park. Like they've got a team. It's just the defence that we had question marks over, right? And a lot of that period, Jared was missing through suspension.
Yeah.
And when you say it's Jared's last year and you've got all those players leaving, it just looks like they just went double down. You know, we're in the trenches now. Let's give this competition a good shake. Yeah. So, outstanding. I did not expect them to blow Manly off the park like that.
And they really blew them off the park.
Can I still take back my tip that they're the favourites to win the competition? Is that still...
Well, you know what? Let's touch on another person that you tipped. You tipped, let's give a bit of credit to you, Connor Watson. That was someone that no one named to play State of Origin.
Correct.
He was phenomenal in that game.
Yeah. Look, he's got great leg speed. You know, he just needs to give a service because there's so much strike. And he did have... You got to step up there because when you lose Walker... Cheese, you know, like he's just doing his part and doing his part well.
I'm going to make a statement that East are a better side with him at 9 than Cheese.
Wow.
It's in that game especially. He's just, I don't know, he just stepped up and his leg speed late. Watching that game live, and I'm telling you, you saw the big four, like the big boys for Manly, Prosecco, Olakawatu, mate, they were and Jared was the same. Like that, I think it was like 20 minutes in, roughly, before they made the change, 25 minutes in. They were gassed. And I sat next to a mate and I said, just watch the little man. One of the little men's going to run right, and let's hope it's Connor. And he did. And that's where he took the initiative.
Semi-final football, you know, you want to play through the middle. You know, you want to tire out their forward pack. You want to play reasonably as simple as possible until you can play the trigger. It's like we spoke about again last week. It's like a game of chess. You keep sacrificing a pawn, sacrifice a pawn. You bring the bishops in, the knights come in, and the rooks. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so no chip and chase on second.
No, the chip and chase is...
There's no Lapa footy yet.
no South Juniors games at Yarra Oval. But look, out of the two games that we've got coming up, Roosters and Melbourne, it's almost 50-50 off the back of that performance. And I know you love to hear that.
Well, I'm looking forward to doing the preview. I want to touch on a few other things that have been spoken about this week. There's not too many, and then I want to go into a pretty in-depth preview. But let's go back to Nicho, what you said before. Nicho came out this week and said, I'm not defined as a footballer.
Yeah,
what's your take?
Without knowing the full context of the interview, for me, I think you are defined as a footballer. You're employed as a footballer. You're 80 minutes every week. Everyone gets to critique the game of football.
Yeah.
It's kind of like he's doubling down and just not really in accepting that the criticism around his game.
Yeah. It's a bit of a deflection.
It's a bit of a deflection, but without being too harsh on him, I mean, it just felt like he's kind of, I don't know. What do you think?
Sounds like a bit of the Me Too movement. Like, I'm not defined as, like, it's...
Yeah.
Like, it's a bit like I'm not... I get there's a different aspect to your life and this, but this is... You're Nicho Hynes, and you're Nicho Hynes, and people... Like, my kids know who you are. All the kids know who you are because you play football. Yeah. Otherwise, no one knows who you are, bar your friends. So, like, yeah, you are defined, and it's. I think it's him feeling the pressure. It's his way of saying, "Oh, hang on, it is a bit of a deflection." But then you look, he's going up against Cleary, and Cleary's coming out going, "I want to repay my team for all the games I missed this year," and that's not his fault.
And on the other side of it, Cleary turns around and says, I am defined as a footballer.
Yeah.
I'm the footballer. So you can look at it both sides of the coin. I just don't like...
Who do you want... I'll ask you the next question. Who do you want to play next to?
Cleary.
Yeah, the person that wants to be... Not just of that, but it's the person who wants to be defined as a footy player.
Absolutely. So, look, I think that's enough about Nicho for the last month.
Poor Nicho's copped it a little bit.
He has.
There's been a bit of a discussion around Kalyn Ponga. He's come out, the Knights have come out, and he said that he's not going to play. He's ruled himself out.
Yep.
I want to know, what are your thoughts on it?
Is there any context around it? Is he said he's injured?
I believe because he's had injuries, and I think it's predominantly he wants to heal from his injuries. He's missed a lot of footy last season.
Yeah.
I think it's putting the club first. What's your take on it?
I saw a couple of the older ex-players kind of not really happy about that. Do people forget that he had a lot of head knocks last year? You know,
Yeah, there was talk that he was going to retire from football.
Yeah. Do people forget that he had a Liz Frank injury this year? You know, like, I don't think he's disrespecting the jersey. I think he's doing the jersey a service by, hey, I need to heal. You know, let me heal properly. Give my head another off season. Let me get my foot right. Let me sit out of this test series, and then I'll be better for it next year. You know, and he missed the first 2 games of Origin as well.
Yeah.
So you can't. I don't find it as offensive as other people are. They're proper offended that he's knocked back an Australian jersey.
It's not because he's lazy. It's because it's his body.
If anything, I feel like he's putting the jersey first.
Yeah.
By saying, I'm not 100%.
Yeah.
You know, I think it was just done wrong by the Knights. They released the statement, or maybe his father did, that he wouldn't be available, and they didn't tell Mal first. But I see it from the other angle. I feel like he's respecting the jersey even more by not being available.
Yeah. Did you ever have times where you had this opportunity?
Well, yeah, I wouldn't. Well, I pulled out of a City team once. So back then, City was like a proper possibles, probables for Origin.
It was. I remember.
And it was the second time I'd been picked, and I didn't want to play. And I rang the club and I was like, how do I pull out of this game? They said, you've got to go in there and fake an injury. So dead set. I walk in there, Tim Sheen's the coach, and I said I had a problem with my hip, and they're trying to adjust my hip, and I'm like, oh yeah, just there. And I get ruled out. Anyway, Tim Sheen's pulled someone aside and said, tell Reni I could smell alcohol in his breath. So it may or may not have been a little bit hung. But, yeah, I have pulled out of City, but that's nowhere near as important as an Australian jersey.
Yeah. Did you have any opportunities there?
In the Australian team? Well, it's a long story. I was having brunch at the courthouse.
I love where this starts.
I was having lunch at the courthouse.
After a big night's sleep?
It was a week after we got beat by the Broncos in the prelim, and I was with my man Sparkles, actually, good friend of mine, and we had brunch at courthouse, and we were going to go for a lunch at T2, just next door.
After a massive sleep.
Just woke up, thought the breakfast at the courthouse is so good. It's a liquid breakfast. And Mum rang me, actually. She's like, get home. I'm like, what do you want me home for? She goes, you're in the Australian team. And I'm like, what? And she's like, you need to get home now. I've just got a call from Canterbury. You're in the Australian team. So Sparkles and I, we go back to Mum's, and she's just like, look at you, you're a fucking disgrace.
Thanks, Mum.
Yeah, I still am. And then, so back then, they used to name the Australian team over the radio.
Yeah.
So Sparkles is taking the piss out of Mum. We're teasing Mum. We've got the radio on, and they pick 1 to 22, 23, and there's no Reni. And I'm like, looking at Mum, just going, what? You just tried to get, that's how you wanted me to get home, by just telling me I got picked in the Australian team. What kind of mother does this? She's like, I promise. And then Canterbury ended up calling again and saying Ricky Short wanted Ren in the Australian team, but they've gone with Tony Carroll. And I thought, well, it's not a bad player to lose your spot to.
Yeah. No.
So me and Sparkles went back to the pub. Go back to the pub. And then the next morning, get another call. Tony Carroll's pulled out. You're in the Australian team.
Wow.
So it was a bit of a roller coaster of emotion. Like, I was emotional
for multiple reasons.
For multiple reasons. I go into camp, and all the debutants were myself, Cameron Smith, Jared Hayne, Greg Inglis, and Anthony Toops.
Well, a few decent names there.
Yeah, a few toilers, you know. And
they would have pleasure of having you there. That would have been unreal.
Oh, yeah, exactly. So, obviously, the media wanted to speak to us five. I was pretty cross-eyed. I was like... There's photos, actually. I had to come down the tunnel.
There's a job for you, Tommy.
Yeah. I'm coming down the tunnel. I'm, like, pale. I've got no blood flow in my face. And then there's just this huge media scrum. And I remember one of the journalists said to me, like, why didn't you play for New Zealand? And I'm like, I looked at the journal and said, why would I play for New Zealand? Like, just because I've got brown skin and my dad's Samoan, I'm not a Kiwi. And I said, I don't even like the place, that's right. And it just came out. I was that hungover. I was just like, I just don't even like the place. And that didn't go down well with a family that did live in New Zealand. Then we had to do a fitness test. But at 22, 23, you can get through it. So, playing for Australia is obviously really special.
Yeah.
Kalyn, I'm nowhere near his talent. He's going to get way more opportunities than I would have ever had to play for Australia. So I'm not too fired up about him not putting that jersey on. I think people are taking it the wrong way. You're disrespecting the jersey. It's not a conscription. We're not going to war.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, well, people like to refer to a game of footy as war.
What about the prestige? And that's weird because as a kid, you always preferred. I think everyone it's almost like they hold. I think fans almost hold Origin above Australia versus New Zealand. You do?
I'm not sure because I didn't play Origin. That's the one that burns the most for me.
Yeah.
I know I was good enough to play Origin. I just didn't have my life sorted out enough off the field. I wasn't professional enough. I went into camp once in 2007, but I think I hold that as the pinnacle. It's because I didn't play it. But playing for Australia, special.
It's the ultimate.
Unbelievable. Like I was the last player picked in that camp.
From T2.
Straight from the brunch at Courthouse and T2, and then started in the first test. So, wow. Can you imagine the emotion? Hungover, not get picked, and then start in a test against the Kiwis.
Did you just win that game?
We did. I broke my ankle in the 78th minute. So another emotional roller coaster, but...
So you couldn't go back to T2, the dancing wheels?
No, I went back to T2. Oh, there's more stories. I don't know if I can tell it. Well, we had to, actually. I'm just making myself out to be the biggest alcoholic, I swear to God.
No, but you're reformed.
Yeah, very
It's
reformed.
Wednesday.
So I broke my ankle, and then they said, we're going to take you to Melbourne. We played the Kiwis back-to-back.
Yeah.
And I had the moon boot, I had crutches, and... I think I remember coming in late on my crutches and the team was going for like a recovery or something like that. And belly ache. Bellamy was coming down the escalator and I'm going up with my crutches at like 6 or 7 in the morning. Would have been, I don't know. And I just thought, ooh, this ain't going to end well. They dropped me off in Sydney when we played the Poms. They just said, hey, you're not coming on camp anymore. They pretty much said, you're out of the squad. But Sticky was the coach. I think he was happy to get rid of me at that point. Oh, I'm sweating bullets.
A bit hot in the sweater.
Oh, forgot my T-shirt.
All right. I think it's time. Let's rip into this preview.
Let's go.
I just can't believe actually how fast this has gone. We've got 3 more games left. And I think... Let's just kick it off. Let's go straight in. We're going down to Amy.
Is that the first game?
That's the first game, yeah. Friday night. So Chooks are on a short turnaround, but given they win the game, they get the long turnaround for the GF. So let's just rip straight in.
I prefer the long short turnaround.
Tell me why. Why do you prefer
I want to get back on the horse, get back into it straight away. I don't want more time to think about the game. I found with longer turnarounds that I struggle to get into the game the following week, but I just to find my second win.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? Like it was just I preferred to play a little bit sore, little less time to think about it. You know, just get into it.
You prefer being on the backup and not fresh.
Pretty much. Yeah. Can back it up.
Can back it up. All right.
Yeah. I'd be extremely worried if I was Melbourne.
Yeah.
I think Roosters go down there with so much confidence. So much confidence. You know.
If you're let's start from coaching point of view. Your bellyache. What are you thinking is bellyache? What are you worried about? What are you telling Melbourne?
No second phase play. Like that was huge from the Roosters last week. The amount of offloads and confidence to that short passing game.
Yeah.
You know, they were trying to attack the edges. I'd be really trying to go after their forwards, after Jared, after all of them. No offloads, no second phase. You know, we stick to, you know, a ruthless performance, and we're really, because they have like when Roosters are confident, they have the best attack. You know, obviously.
Yep.
You know, when they're playing on the front foot, when they're playing with a quick play of the ball, when they're playing their set plays, they just get to the ball, so they execute really well. So if I'm bellyache, I'm like, hey, they don't roll us more than 35 metres each set coming in out of transition, out of the backfield. No offloads. We wrap that ball up and we slow the ruck down, because the slower the ruck, the less confidence I find the Roosters have when it comes to attacking.
Yeah. So how do you say cut off second phase play? Is that committing an extra defender each time?
Well, possibly. You know, it depends. It's not like you stick to your processes, right? It's not like they've got a Nelson who's 6'8".
Yeah.
And that you need an extra bloody defender just to wrap the ball up. You know, it's just committing to your tackles. You know, really hit to hurt, hit with intent, and making sure that they don't have the opportunity for second line speed. Line speed's huge.
Yeah, line speed indeed.
Their marker D.
Yeah.
Because I was so impressed with their second phase play against Manly last week that I think that'll be one of their targets for sure for Melbourne.
All right. Putting the cap on the other side, you're Trent Robinson. What are you telling the team? What are you looking for?
To stop Melbourne? Well, obviously, it's again, you know, the amount of confidence they had with Radley and Jared coming back into the side.
Yeah.
They need to fight fire with fire, and just you need to stop them through the middle. You need to cut Munster down. If Munster wants to carry the ball, you know, 17 carries last week, you put him on his ass. Yeah. You need to make sure that he doesn't want to have 17 carries. Because when he was having those carries, the team was just getting on the back of that. He's creating havoc. Obviously, Jerome is an indicator. Pap, they're just the way to beat Melbourne I've found in the past is that you want to make them uncomfortable when it comes to offloads.
Yeah.
You know, like when these well-drilled sides have something like a bit of second phase play,
it just destroys sides.
It doesn't destroy them, but it just puts them off from their structure.
Yeah.
And this is going to be similar to my opinion with the Sharks.
I've always had this theory with Melbourne that you have to chance your arm with second phase play.
Second phase and move the ball in transition.
Yeah.
Move them around.
Yeah.
Move them around. The problem with playing low percentage sort of attack is that if you don't execute and you give them too much ball, then you're gone.
Yeah, gone. It's game over.
Game over
early, because they then just suffocate you with a short lead.
Exactly. But I find that the Roosters can play a very tough, grinding game, match it with them. However, to beat Melbourne, I would be trying to unsettle their defensive patterns.
Who's your play to watch for Melbourne?
Munster.
Has
to be.
Not Wishart?
Yeah, well, Wishart is someone we've spoken about a lot, because I really am impressed with the 14 coming on and straightening up the tack, the dummy, passing when he needs to. Munster's the key. He's the big game player. Jerome's had a fantastic year, but Munster's the Origins. He's won a grand final.
Yeah.
I think Jerome has as well. But you'd be targeting Munster a lot.
Yeah. Who's your player to watch for the Chooks? Who's going to be the Chooks play that stands up and wins it for him?
Teddy.
Teddy again?
Has to be Teddy, yeah. Teddy just, those runs through the middle, carry on the fourth, fifth.
Yeah.
Get his team on the front foot. He's always support playing through the middle in the first, second, third tackle. Point to prove. You know, not necessarily a point to prove, but just continuing his form after missing out on Origin games 2 and 3 anyway.
Yeah.
Just the way he's been playing, he's putting up some serious numbers this year. You know, and he's a player, right? If the team's not going forward, Teddy is the type of player that can turn it on its head and sort of create that momentum.
Yeah,
whereas
he's
there's
a back
players
that can get the team going forward.
My forwards weren't going forward, so you know the halves didn't get involved, or the fullback couldn't do anything. Teddy's the type of player that can swing momentum, and yeah, just the way he's playing at the moment, he's going to be the key factor in the Roosters winning. I just can't. I'm 50-50 on this game.
So from a betting proposition, you're backing East with the start because they're getting start.
They're getting the start.
Yeah,
what's the odds?
The odds are that you're getting 9.5 start. Like that
Roosters.
just seems huge. Yeah. So it's $1.30 Melbourne, $3.60 the Roosters, and you're getting 9.5
Really?
start the Chalks.
$3.60.
$3.60 in what could be a coin toss.
Jesus, what do they know that I don't? Or both of us?
Probably the fact that they've beaten once out of the last 10 games now or something.
Yeah.
They've obviously something along the lines of
They've
that.
had a bit of a, like...
But, like,
what?
go back to this. It was... They played the Storm last year in the game before this. And it was to go through.
Yeah.
And East were the better side all night, and they
Yep.
got done in the final minute or 2 minutes.
Yep.
I think Melbourne's a far better side this year, and I also think East are a better side, obviously missing players. But I still think East are a better side this year, and I think both sides are better.
Great, yeah. It's a coin toss for me.
I think this is the game of the weekend. Not because it's mine. I just think there's because I will get to it, but I think Penrith will win.
Yeah,
But
look.
and that's why with this, as you said, you think it's a 50-50 game.
I think
and
it's a
that's
50-50. Given what I saw last week and the confidence, you know, I've obviously been critical of them, but I just wanted to, not that they're going to listen to me, I just wanted to challenge them.
Robbo was listening.
Robbo.
Yeah,
Thanks,
send it
Robbo.
to him.
I just wanted to challenge them physically. You know, I wanted them to show, I wanted to see some aggression, you know, and I see all the pretty stuff and what they can do with the ball. I just want to see some defensive steel.
Yeah.
And they did that last week.
So you're sticking with the Roosters?
I don't know.
Wow, that was huge. What an anti-climax, Reni.
I'm going to go Melbourne.
Oh,
Melbourne, because they've been the most consistent team all year.
Yeah.
So I'll say Melbourne, and I'd love to see a Melbourne Penrith grand final. To be fair,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
because I don't think Roosters can beat Penrith.
You don't? No.
No.
But you think Melbourne can?
I think Melbourne can.
Do you think Roosters can beat Melbourne?
Yeah. You're trying to confuse me here, right? Just let me take Melbourne.
You can have Melbourne.
I'll have Melbourne.
I think it's a good omen for us that you tip Melbourne.
Yeah, probably.
All right, let's move on to our man Nicho, Tommy.
Yeah.
Let's move on. How does it look? Can they beat?
It's a tough ask, right?
So it's $1.25 Penrith. You're $4, and you're getting 11.5 start.
It's a really tough ask, and I can hear everyone saying, "Oh, they got to unsettle Penrith," you know, give away penalties, stop-start game, just really unsettle them. But what does unsettle them mean?
Well, I'll give you. I watched a thing. Gus Gould made a statement, and he goes, "One thing with Penrith is they respect you. They don't attack you from their half often. They play the game. They play the sets.
They play the long game.
They play the long game, and what you've got to do is try and, in his opinion, you've got to stay in it long enough to beat them in the final rounds."
this.
I hate going against Gas, but I don't think most teams can out Penrith because they are so good at it. I think it's the opposite. I think you got to chance your arm.
You got to chance your arm, and I agree. And this is where I just spoke about how Roosters can beat Melbourne. This is the blueprint for me to beat Penrith is to shift in transition, is to kick early.
To explain shift in transition.
Well, just, in the back end, in your half, chance your arm and start moving the ball around.
Yeah.
Move the ball around.
Yeah.
Sideline to sideline.
Love it.
Second phase, offloads, front rowers passing, short passes between the front rowers, kicking early.
Yeah.
Kick early on the third, on the fourth, turn them around. Just play a really unsettling game. But with that style of footy, it's a lot of risk, and you got to execute. But like for like, 1 to 17, they're not close. So that's the only way I can see them is beating Penrith.
You've explained what Fitzy's going to have to do.
Pretty much, mate. Like you just do things out of the ordinary. Like we saw Canterbury shift against Penrith early.
Yeah.
When they played against Penrith in a regular season, and they had like 5 line breaks in the first 20 minutes because you're not expecting teams to shift.
No.
Right? And you do have to adjust. Execution let the Dogs down in that game in the end.
Yeah.
But in a prelim, I think Sharks, like you said, you go set for set with Penrith, they're too experienced at set for set.
They're so good. They've had the experience in these later games as well. When they take you deep into those championship rounds, Cleary's just sitting there, just going ice in the veins.
You've got bricks, you've got concrete in your pockets. You're going straight to the bottom. You're going to sink.
Yeah.
When you go deep, when they take you to deep water, you ain't coming back up to surface. So, second phase, offloads, short passing game between their front rowers, and shifting in transition, kicking early. Just throw it. That's how I see Sharks beating Penrith, but they need to execute. They need to have a 10 out of 10 game when it comes to completion rates if you're going to play that style of footy.
Yeah, and seeing Penrith beat Sharks, just a repeat of what we've seen for the last 3 years.
Yeah.
And just
they don't have
being
to change
clinical.
anything. Penrith need to be Penrith.
Yeah.
Another thing is the Sharks need to go after the Bash brothers. You go after them two, Leota and Fisher Harris. Then you got to deal with Liam Martin, and then you got to deal with Yowie.
Yeah.
And then you got to deal with Sorensen, or what's the other one? Gardner? Is it Gardner or the other back rower? You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, Garner. Luke Garner.
So it's a lot to deal with.
Well, all right. So we say there's a lot to deal with, and they've like all those positives. Roosters, they blew East off the park, but everything went right, and they had a lot to play for all that. With East got back to 24-10 and were unlucky not to be 24-16, and they lost the second half to the Roosters. Is that a concern going into this game? Because if they don't start as perfect as they did against East and the game's closer, is that an issue?
I don't think so. No. I mean, Roosters were fighting for everything, and they scored some, Suoli scored that good try. Who scored the other one? Came off a kick. And then, Teddy pass wasn't a forward pass. You got everything to play for.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be concerned. Penrith, they're just too ruthless, Mace. I wouldn't say it's a concern letting Roosters come back and potentially, go into 24-16 potentially.
Yeah.
It's similar to the Roosters. Got a lot to play for,
Yeah.
Fisher Harris leaving. Luai leaving. They don't need much motivation, this team.
No.
Liam Martin's an animal. The only thing I would say about Penrith is there's a lot of them that look a little bit busted.
Yeah, okay.
There's, Dylan Edwards has got his knee strapped. Cleary, obviously. I think Yoey's got his knee strapped.
Yeah.
There's a few players with some strapping, right? And I wonder, I just wonder, you're going into your 5th grand final. Does any sort of like negativity just start to creep in your mind at some point when it gets a bit hard? You're like, oh, fuck, we've done this 4 times. Like, I could be forgiven for
letting one go.
Just letting one go.
What do you think they've got it? No, we've got the blueprint. We're confident in our system.
Man, they do. It's whether or not Sharks can execute a different game plan, because you ain't going set for set with the Panthers.
If Sharks are the win, who's the player?
Brayley needs to run amok out of 9 if they're going forward.
Yeah, he had a really good game.
If he gets them on the front foot and they go through the middle,
yeah,
I think Brayley needs to have a great game. Trindle can back it up. Nicho's Nicho. He's got it there. He doesn't need to go over the top, right? He needs to have a bloody good game. He needs an 8, 9, 10 out of 10 performance. But I think it's just across the park, Mace. Like they have to have, all of them need to almost have a 9 out of 10 game to beat this team.
Penrith.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine Sharks Roosters grand final? Do you know what I mean? But you know what the good thing is, right out of that whole system, is that the top 4 teams are in the prelims.
Yeah.
There's no smay. The most consistent teams are there.
Yeah, or from all year. Yeah.
But a Sharks Roosters grand final? I think everyone's setting up to, they've pretty much got Penrith and Melbourne in there already. I can't wait for this weekend. Cannot wait.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a very good weekend of footy. I think Sharks really, they'll have to throw, I'd be throwing the kitchen sink in the first half.
The kitchen sink.
Everything, and I'd be trying things. Yeah,
fucking...
I love the shifting early, trying to create questions early. But like, as you said, that shit's got to stick. You offload, it's got to stick.
Got to stick.
Because you can't be giving them the ball back on your 30 straight away. Because Cleary will just be sitting there going like this.
You'd want to complete your first 7 to 10 sets. Like, all right, let's just complete this, get some confidence. And then get the pendulum going. They'll kick deep to your corner. You got Mulatalo linking with Kennedy. That's going to link with Katoa. The links with Ramian. Like they need to move the ball around when in transition from a kick set.
Yeah.
Once they kick over their head, I'd be like, they'll be kicking the corners, but I'll be looking to shift from there. And then making sure my back rowers get behind the ball as quick as possible. Obviously, the centers get back, and then the halves get back. And just looking to pull the trigger at any opportunity. All right.
Just go.
No hesitation. There's a short side ball and we take that. Let's go longer shift.
And I think Trindle's got it in his game. That he'll chance his arm. He'll do it. Trindle's shown that he's got that spark in him. He's a tricky Trindle. And he just move him around. Maybe even get the Wayne Bennett theory. Just halfway through the game, just put Nicho back to fullback.
Yeah. Well, he might have went back to the future again, remember? Yeah. Micro sleep. Oh, I got it. Nah,
it's got an interesting week of footy. I hope Brafe survives without the show this week.
I don't think he will. He looked pretty upset this morning when we were training. He wanted to come on today.
He did.
I said, mate, we don't need you.
We've got Buzz next.
Good day, Rick, yeah.
All right, we'll see you next week.
See you next week.
What are you prepared to lose today? Set a deposit limit. For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.